I want people here to have confidence in their police force, and I take my public duty to hold it to account extremely seriously. This explains why, when a Sky News broadcast in July 2023 featured disturbing accounts and distressing images of 3 women in police custody, I immediately invited the former Victims Commissioner for England and Wales to carry out an independent review. The Deputy Mayor and I asked Dame Vera Baird to report back to us on the experience of people arrested and taken into custody in our city region, with a particular focus on women and girls, on how GMP applies the law in respect of arrests and custody, and on the use of strip searches. Today we publish the Baird Inquiry, and though it makes difficult reading, I am in no doubt whatsoever that it was the right thing to do. What it reveals is a problematic culture and practices that must change. Of the 14 people who spoke to the inquiry, Dame Vera concludes that 7 were unlawfully arrested. As people will be able to read in the personal narratives, many of those people were vulnerable before their arrest as survivors of domestic or sexual abuse and did not pose a risk to the public. And yet, they were put through a demeaning experience of police custody and, in some cases, strip search. In all cases featured, there are examples of extremely poor, indefensible, and inhumane treatment. A recurring pattern is what appears to be a lack of even-handedness in the investigation of disputes, where the more vulnerable person is reduced to a state of even greater vulnerability, and those posing a greater risk to public safety do not receive the same attention. As the Deputy Mayor will outline later, we will be accepting all of Dame Vera's recommendations and asking the Chief Constable to consider implementing significant changes with relation to arrest and use of custody. As she makes clear, the level of harm caused by these experiences is huge, and the individuals concerned deserve an apology for what happened. I want to deal directly with the element of the report which will cause most concern to the public: strip searching. There are 2 justifications for carrying out such a search: to secure the welfare of the individual or to look for concealed items. On the former, clothes are removed when individuals are thought to be at risk of causing self-harm, potentially with ripped clothing. Whilst this is ostensibly a decision taken out of consideration for an individual's welfare, Dame Vera's report makes it abundantly clear that it is entirely counterproductive. The welfare of people who experience strip searching is severely damaged by that process, and the traumatising effect of it doesn't necessarily reduce the risk of self-harm in the moment or in the future. In short, a check designed for welfare, in fact, often destroys it. This is why we accept Dame Vera's recommendation on this point. I want to see an end, within 6 months, of the use of strip searching for so-called welfare cases in Greater Manchester, and will ask the Chief Constable to consider moving instead to a practice based on observations. We accept that different considerations arise regarding the use of strip searching for concealed items. We support Dame Vera's recommendations that GMP should ask officers first to consider all alternatives to strip searching and the use of airport screening devices to eradicate degrading strip searching as much as possible. We also support her call for clarity over the level of authorization needed for searches of this kind. In response, the Deputy Mayor and I will ask the Chief Constable to consider going further and introducing a presumption against strip searching for concealed items. This is not the same as saying they can't happen, but it is about creating a framework which makes it abundantly clear that they are a last resort and not an easy option, where the reason as to why there is no alternative must be clearly set out by the officer concerned and then approved by a senior officer. The people who gave evidence to this inquiry are pretty much unanimous in feeling that strip searches are used as a power trip or to demean them. We are not in a position to determine the extent to which it is true in these cases or otherwise, but we know it is a strongly held view, and it would not be a success to see an end to welfare strip searches only for there to be a big increase in those justified on the grounds of looking for concealed items. At the very least, the lack of adequate record keeping, as exposed by the report, suggests an approach to these matters that currently is far too lax. Any strip searches cause profound and lasting trauma for those subjected to them. We therefore need a new regime which restricts their use only to when they are strictly necessary. Finally, I want to address what this inquiry means for the improvement journey which GMP has been on since 2021. Of course, the cases featured in this report and others like them represent a small percentage of public interactions with GMP. The vast majority are satisfactory or better, and GMP continues to improve across the board. Some of the issues identified by Dame Vera were also highlighted by the last HMIC inspection, and action to address them has been underway for some time, as I am sure the Chief Constable will explain. We continue to support his drive to raise the number of arrests to that which would be expected in a force of this size. What this report reveals is that in the early stages, efforts to improve GMP met with a problematic culture in parts of the organisation which could not be eradicated overnight. We have a shared goal of a force good across most areas and outstanding in some. We are clear that we will not be able to achieve that goal unless we are prepared to hold up a mirror to unacceptable cultures and practices. That is what we have done in asking Dame Vera to produce this report, and it will now enable GMP to go further and deeper on its improvement journey. I want to thank most sincerely the people who came forward to give evidence to this review. You have given a voice to many others who will have gone through similar experiences, and I am confident your courage will bring real change and will mean in future others are less likely to experience what you did. We also thank Dame Vera for her valuable service to Greater Manchester. We will today send the Baird Inquiry to the new Home Secretary and ask her to consider adopting the recommendations as new national policy, as we know the issues uncovered in this report are not confined to Greater Manchester, but prevalent across the country.